Two, one. Welcome to Mediocre Rumble Brothers. I'm Jordan, your host, and the team, Corey, Edwin, and Udon. Today we'll be talking about handheld gaming consoles. But before we do, let's go around with what we did for the week. Corey, how about yourself?
I'm going to assume that you passed me the sticks.
Yes.
Yes, you
There's
did.
like a lot of droppage.
Okay. Keep it going.
Oh. So, played a lot of PS2. I've been playing a lot of Parasite Eve because I kind of got hooked on that game. Unfortunately, I'm not able to finish it because the PS2 won't read the interaction of putting in a second disc because it's just old. So there's that. And then kind of bouncing around random Kingsfield. I played Manhunt last night for 20 minutes, and that game's just kind of brutal but funny. But doing a lot of retro gaming, but mostly Parasite Eve. I've been playing that all week. I haven't been recording it though because I'm just kind of sitting down enjoying the game. I think I have one chapter left, but it's on the last disc, so I'm kind of screwed on that. But anyways, Udon.
So I'm kind of in the same-ish boat. I've been doing a lot of gaming. Let's see, what did I do? Well, I just got that Farmagia game, that fairy tale art style. What I had assumed was a farming simulator, but it seems to be in a completely separate genre. Based on the trailer, it seemed to lead people to believe that it was supposed to be a farming / creature collector sim, but it's actually more of a dungeon dive roguelike game where the farming is just how you get creatures, and it's just kind of almost feels like a tacked on portion of the game. The main gameplay loop involves blocking, parrying, and Pikmin style-esque of swarm of monsters in a dungeon where each time you go through it changes and you get different loot and power-ups and stuff. So that's how it attributes itself to a roguelike. But I mean, I like it. It just not at all what I thought it was to begin with. So that was a bit surprising. I got Sonic X Shadow Generations. It's good. I mean, it's just Sonic Generations again, but with Shadow. I mean, it's technically two different games because you get the entirety of Sonic Generations remastered, and then you also get the Shadow portion on top of it. But it's the same gameplay. It's really good. The only thing I'd say about it, and maybe just because it's been a while, I need to play the Sonic Generations portion. But from the levels I've played of Shadow's campaign, it can get visually busy, way too visually busy at some points where I actually can't tell what the fuck is happening on the screen at any given point. And I didn't feel like that was an issue in Sonic's levels back in Generations, but I mean, it's been a long time since I played it, so maybe I'm just misremembering it. But overall, it's still the same gameplay as Sonic Generations, just with Shadow, and Shadow has different abilities and stuff, and so it's really fun. Got myself a copy of Chibi Robo finally. That was a big bite out of my wallet, but it's just a game I've been wanting to get back for a really long time. Did that. Actually went back and played a bit of Titanfall. That was fun. Can't think of too much else. I mean, just besides that, it's been me and my friends playing the absolute shit out of Space Marine 2. We've been trying to do that operations mode on the hardest difficulty, which we're at this point I'm actually being man, y'all need to add another highest difficulty because we are fucking wrecking this shit. The game is so damn satisfying once you become a master of the combat and parrying and stuff like that. You feel like a fucking badass. The game only does one thing, but it does it so damn well. It is so much fun to play. I love it so much. But aside from that, yeah, that's about it. I mean, I got over my cold. I got over COVID, and I'm not gonna... Still haven't finished Silent Hill 2, but I'll report on that whenever that actually becomes a thing.
Ooh.
I want to finish it. I'm curious to see what ending I get and see the rest of the game, obviously. I'm going to play it with my friend until I go visit Corey and come back. No one's coming over to my house, so...
Yay. Isolation.
Yeah. Woo! This is what I do normally. Besides that, yeah, that's about it. And playing Pokemon Go. Oh, and the only other thing I was sad about, since I was playing my gacha games, my Konosuba gacha game is unfortunately shutting down. They're gonna it's going to shut down in January, but I mean, if you already see the guillotine coming, you might as well get off the conveyor belt. And I'm just like, oh man, I like this game, but now it's going to the void. Oh well. I kind of saw it coming down the line because it's like a meme in the gacha community that the licensed games typically always die, at least much faster than the ones that aren't. So won't be able to play that anymore, and I'm sad about it. I liked it, but oh well, it's gonna be gone now. But yeah, I think that's just about it for me. So Edwin, what have you been doing?
I still haven't finished Thousand Year Door, but I'm on the very last chapter, so I have to go to the Shadow of Palace, and I know that place sucks. So I'm trying to grind out a few levels before actually heading there, and I just been playing the absolute hell out of Zenless Zone Zero, trying to do as much stuff as possible before the start of the next season, which I think is tomorrow morning. So
when I get home, I consistently see you on the PlayStation playing it. I'm glad you're having fun with it.
Yeah, well, it's like it was unnecessarily stressful, but that's because I'm trying to. One of the newest things that I was missing is just like you have to like it because it's like the very like current point of the story that I just made it to yesterday. So it was like there was an event that you had to reach the end point of the story so far to start it, but I wasn't there yet, so I had to like speed run all the way from like the prologue all the way up to chapter 4, and that's what I've been doing for the past 2 weeks. So I just had to hurry up.
It'd make it easier if they could just skip cutscenes, but you can't.
You can, but it's like the only ones that I did skip were like side quests and like not the important stuff. Like all the voiceover stuff, I actually listened to all of it because like if I'm gonna be playing this a long time, I might as well understand the main story. All the side shit doesn't matter. But like the thing that I was missing was a side quest, but it was locked until I reached up to the nearest point. So I finally did that. So it's like I forgot how long that game has been out, but I've caught up in like 2 weeks. And then I got Bernice and her.
You got the new
weapon.
Girl, nice.
Yeah, but it's a little disappointing. I'm happy that I got her, but the leader of her like biker gang was available while we were in Japan, so I can't get her right now. So she's the only one I'm missing. It's Caesar, the biker knight.
For me, it's just gacha games. It'll come back around. You just gotta wait.
Yeah, I just don't know how long because Caesar's the only one that I'm missing out of all the girls. So, damn it.
Wait, how much have you been rolling on it? You've gotten all the other. You're just talking about that group of characters, right? Not all the characters.
Yeah. No, okay. Not all the characters. I don't have that
Jesus
kind of money.
Christ, Edwin.
No, it's like I'm missing one because of how many times that I did roll because I was grinding from start to finish. I got like a bunch of points to like actually roll. So like I got most of the A class characters, and then I got like 3 S rank. So like there's more S rank than there are A rank, but the A ranks are still super helpful.
Like very rarely, like when gacha games add lower rarity characters, it's usually like an event. Typically every character that's added to a gacha game is always like the highest tier character because they have to make you roll for it. And to answer your question, Zenless came out July 4th. Kind of weirdly enough, it came out on Independence Day, but it hasn't been out that terribly long. I kind of wish when I played it, because I like the game's style, especially in comparison to Genshin and Star Rail, but like I don't know. There's just something like they didn't explain the lore to me that well enough for me to like get invested into what the story was. So I've tried to skip cutscenes, but there is a lot of talking in that game between like gameplay segments, and it's kind of what grates on me most of all because I'm not really invested in the story because I don't really understand the rules and how it works. I just like the characters, especially Nicole. I am fighting with my inner demons to buy a figure of Nicole, despite the fact I don't even play the fucking game.
Well, it's like I just barely understand the lore. Like Chapter 4 is like the latest one, but it's like that's when it's finally explained. It's like, oh, what the two main characters you play as is like what they're trying to do in the whole story. It's like, really? this is explained on chapter 4, not 1.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like you got to get pretty far to like get the whole story, but like between I think chapter 3 was like one of them where it's like it didn't really have a lot to do with like the main story. It was just kind of like a kind of like a side quest, but it was like still something that was in your way for the main story. So it's like not a lot of explanation was done there. So like 1, 2, and 4 is like kind of the story that you're gonna get, but it's like after 4, it's just like a small segment after you finish the whole thing. After that, it's just kind of it was just like a lot of ridiculousness. But when I'm playing and it's like and I'm doing the story, it's like one of the most hype moments is when there's the really good animation cutscenes, because my god, seeing the Victoria housekeeping like do all their stuff was just super cool, especially the leader, the wolf guy, is really cool. Like it.
Oh yeah, like Zenless had that style that's separate from Genshin and Star Rail, where they have like they are not afraid to get really exaggerated with the movement animations, and it looks really nice. Like I like it. I between Fate and Pokemon Masters, I don't have room in my life for Zenless. I'm just gonna sit here on the sidelines and enjoy the content that comes out for the game without actually playing it, because they do fun stuff all the time. Because when they first came out, they had a funny little commercial video for Ellen Jo because she was like the first rate up character, and they had the silly little music video for Bernice when she came out. So they have fun when they release new content for the game. I'm just gonna sit here from the sidelines and enjoy that.
Yeah, it was like I saw the Bernice video, which is like the whole reason why I started. And then when I actually when I played it, I tried Honkai Star Rail, and I didn't really like that one. And then when I tried Zenless Zone Zero, I had no idea what I was getting into. All I saw was just that animation for Bernice, and then I actually enjoyed it. And then when I enjoyed it, I was like, oh, it's a gacha game. It was like, and then I had like a reminiscent memory when I was playing Brave Frontier. And then all the times that you talked about you playing Fate, it was like, I'll make this my Fate game, like you do. So that's why I started playing it a lot.
Yeah, there's a gacha game out there for everyone. Whether or not you found it yet or not is the question.
Yeah, it was like that was like the two main reasons why I started playing it, and now I'm just hooked at this point. So I'll just be playing it.
I don't blame you at all. If I didn't play the ones I already played, I probably would either play Zenless or Genshin myself. But I got my hands full with Fate and Pokemon Masters. So even with Konosuba going in the dirt, unfortunately, I'm not going to put another game out. Especially because I dip my toes into that Pokemon Pocket TCG or whatever. Yeah, different kind of gacha, but it's a nice little app. It's nothing crazy, but it's cool, I guess. You know.
Yeah, I saw the three of you playing that, and I'm just like, I have no idea what this is really. I feel like I've seen it, but
it's just virtual Pokemon card collecting. They're trying to reap the benefits of the TCG without having to print the cardboard.
Wait, so it's just collecting the cards? You don't actually battle with them?
Oh no, no. Remember, I told you they did the same thing in this that they did in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. It's the battle system, but they like watered it down because now it's like because in the regular TCG. You have to knock out like 6 Pokemon on the opposing team and get prize cards, yada yada. But in this one, you only have to knock out 3, and there's no prize cards. You only have to knock out 3. There's no energy cards either, because you just get an energy every turn to allocate how you wish. And then your deck size is only 20 cards. Like the matches are like really fast.
Have you guys fought each other?
No, but I just pulled an Articuno just now.
You just pulled an Articuno? Lame. I pulled the fucking cool Mewtwo. The fucking like fly through card art. That was really cool.
That one is pretty sick. Oh, what? Come on. Okay, I got an Articuno EX and then I got a regular holo Articuno in the same pull.
Actually, I wonder if my dopamine hit's up for grabs right now too.
Yeah. It's weird because the game is only like interactable for like 5 minutes and they move on. I also did email them about that problem I had and they got back to me about it. And I think it's really silly. But in the icon for the dailies, there's 3 pictures, and one of them is a gift box, and then it shows 2 other items. But what it's telling you is that it's a gift of those 2 items. And there's no indication that these items are being added to your inventory. They should just give you a gift box that you go to your items and then tap it, and then it goes, you just got these 2 things. Because that would be more intuitive.
It would.
I kept showing me a gift box, but it didn't tell me I was getting the other stuff, so I was super confused.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they also should add scanning QR codes to add real packs from buying real packs.
That's like the one sin it's done that I don't understand.
Yeah,
why
otherwise
that
it's going
was
to
made.
boom in popularity and start to trail off as people get bored with it, because like there's not a lot of decks right now, or there's 3 different decks I think that you can borrow from or something like that, and then there's the one.
Well, no, you can make decks. I mean, there's rental decks. If you get like a card, it'll give you like a limited use rental deck, but like they give you enough hourglasses to start that like you can open a fuck ton of packs and start making decks. So I mean, it's not that bad. It's like any other, because it is kind of, I mean, obviously TCG is gacha games in a different form, but like any gacha game, it's going to be a slow start, and then like it's going to keep building more and more the more it's going to go, because I think they're really big. Because like I said, this is their 3rd attempt at making a mobile version of the TCG, and it looks like this time they're actually trying, I guess, for lack of a better like way to explain it, because the other two...
I like the sliding to, like, it just, like, the interaction with it is really, like, well thought out, because it's like you tear the top. You can turn the cards around before you open it so that you get them face back, and then you can surprise yourself that way if you want to open them that way. But they only have, like, the one type of cards that you can get right now, Genetic Apex. So once they start putting all the other stuff in there, which I know they're going to have an event for, like, Pokemon base set, and because like why wouldn't they do that? That usually is like the out of the hat trick that they usually pull when it's like, remember all the original 151? Here you go.
Yeah. Can you trade in that game?
You will be able to. It's not implemented yet, but they will be able to. Yeah, I mean it's a very clean app. It runs really well. I mean, obviously it's not very high fidelity, but it's nice to use. You just simplistic. You just get your dopamine hit twice a day, 3 times if you want to pay your subscription. Yeah. And it's neat, I guess. I mean, I didn't spend money to buy packs. I spent money because it gave me Gardevoir fucking like card sleeves and a coin and stuff like that, which are really cute. And I'm just like, I really want that. And but we'll see how it develops. It's just something to have, because again, it's just like, I feel like opening a card pack and disappointing myself today, which I have to wait 40 more minutes before my card pack's going to be ready for opening. So before the end of this episode, I'll open it.
All right, we'll hold you to it. Burn, so. We also talked about Pokemon already. We got that out of the way so fast.
I know, right?
But I'm sure we're not done.
Oh no, never. Pokemon's never done. Not with me,
especially with this episode's topic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is.
Well, before we get there, Jordan, what did you do this week?
Give me a turn. Shit.
I'm sorry that we're doing interesting things. I mean, what were you doing? Playing Silent Hill 3. There you go. That's what Jordan did, and he hated it.
Shit, man. No, I was like, holy shit. I was like super excited because all of a sudden we just got done with that special on the fucking Silent Hill 2. So I was like, why not? Let's do number 3. And yeah, it was not what I was expecting. The intro just was retarded. The whole monsters looked dumb as shit. And I don't know. It was funny to me was that I was actually only enjoying the part where, at least the second one, things can be a little bit confusing. You have to figure your way through a lot of ways of getting your keys and all this shit. I just was randomly just running across shit and all of a sudden picking things up, except for one hilarious one, which was there's a key underneath a fucking pallet. I can't get to it because I can't shove my hands through the corner, inside to go grab the key. I need to go find me some fucking tongs from a bakery to grab the keys. I was like, you got to be shitting me. This is ridiculous. We're already getting there, and I haven't even started game that far in, and this is where it was. And stories just, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to continue. I'm really having a hard time believing that this game is a good game. If a lot of people are enjoying it, I want to know what drugs they're on to
Did you use a cheat code to give yourself a bunch of guns because you were already done with the game? I was playing
on easy, and I said in the last game, I'm not lying.
Wait, you're cheating on a game on easy?
I'm playing it on easy, and I think that's what it was. It was a dream, and that was why I had.
Yeah, it's the dream that she has, and I think it gives you all these items because it's like dreaming about an area that you're eventually going to go to. I know that one is like a cult favorite, I believe.
Is it the first one?
No,
No,
Which
the
Silent
third
Hill
one.
is it?
third.
3.
Oh, third. I just heard Silent Hill. I didn't hear a number.
It's okay, buddy. But what is it? I don't know. Maybe it's one of those where it's got a shitty beginning and a really good middle and ending. Maybe that's what it is. It's like
It definitely has a really crazy like turning point, but I don't want to spoil that. For those that do know about Silent Hill 3, it's like once you get there, it's kind of holy shit, and you'll definitely want to finish. But you gotta, I think it's like 2/3 of the way through the game or something like that. But the difference is that one focuses on the cult side of Silent Hill. Most of them, except for the second one, I think focus on the cult side of Silent Hill. I think Origins also doesn't focus on the cult, and it's more about like some trucker that accidentally goes through Silent Hill or something like that. Which accidentally going through Silent Hill would fucking suck.
yeah, no, I just gotta do my rounds. Shit.
Yeah, this is the road closed ahead. He's like, oh, I'll just take another route. Shit.
Yeah, and then after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try something different. And then I started playing that Rhythm Heaven Fever, which was it was kind of decent. I was actually digging it at first, and then it just started getting to the point where music was no longer a factor in there. You were basically just like, okay, when do I click the button to do it on the right time for this to work? If not, you end up losing. You to start all over, and you got to do it all over again. And it's just then they end up getting to the point where it's called remix, and then they just shove all 5 of the levels at one go, and you just got to fucking do them. And if not, if you can't complete it, then you got to start all over and just keep doing it. And yeah, I was just like, okay, the game was getting there at the same point. It was kind of funny, and they actually had some good tunes, and then it was just, yeah, they rinse and repeat, basically, and I was like, okay, I'm done. So I was really just losing interest on that quite quickly. I was going to look at some other games. I was going to try to play some handheld games, because I know we had our episode today, but I didn't really get to that. I was just basically just searching around and looking for games to play, and these are the only 2 I touched, so that's all I got. And
Warriors.
oh yeah, I played Warriors. Yeah, okay, I remember that.
Warriors.
They have a very yeah. For those out there that want to know how free they were on speech from the video, just you watch the intro and it's pretty funny, because they'll say something that you would probably say, okay, you probably couldn't say that in today's games, but it was pretty funny. It made me giggle. Yeah, I played that for a little bit. It looked like the fighting in it was actually quite nice. You could beat people up, grab them, throw them. Unfortunately, I was working it out on some homeless people in the game, but you know, I got.
Oh, you're teaching the combat. You're just beating up that drunk guy, and they're like, "All right, give him his booze. He's done." It's like, geez.
Now we unleash 4 homeless people on you. It's like, oh shit. Had to pull out my Krav Maga, take him out. But yeah, I did that. It was. I'm pretty sure I'm going to play that one more. That was actually fun. I remember that was one of those games that were actually really good. That if you didn't play it, you'd probably be like, this game looks stupid.
Is that a Rockstar game?
Yeah, it is. It is made by Rockstar.
Sounds like a Rockstar game.
That's weird, because it's like a Rockstar, but it's based on an actual IP and not like an original thing that they would make, like Bully or something like that.
Yeah, no.
Or Manhunt.
No, they really handled that game well. It definitely matched it, but they were taking out all that extra stuff. They just basically just made you go through fighting the different gangs like you would, but they were kind of extending it out more. So you kind of got to see more of the different gangs that you didn't see in the movie. So that was kind of nice.
It's nice. I can dig it.
Yeah. Can you dig it? Anyways, so let's go ahead and let's jump into our poll. So our poll was, what is your favorite handheld gaming console? It was Game Gear, Game Boy, DS, and PSP. Winner was Nintendo DS. What do y'all think of that?
And to no one's surprise, and
I
I thought it was gonna be Game Boy.
Though my favorite's Game Boy Advance, but the DS is like a monster library. A lot of innovative games from it, and I mean, when I was in college with Udon, everybody had one. They were all using that. What was it? The Street Pass or something like that.
Street Pass.
God, I know. And then I was like, well, maybe I should bring my DS here and start doing that. And it was just the whole school was playing DS everywhere. And I mean, it's easy to carry around and all that. I mean, we'll probably get into mobility of handhelds, but it was a very popular system.
As I made the observation like yesterday, and this doesn't like completely cover it, but the Game Boy Advance, at least seemingly to me, like it has a good library, but like, and even has good games that are original for sure. But like the Game Boy Advance, especially the Game Boy Advance, I feel just like a lot of its library happened to be ports of like the Super Nintendo, like not necessarily like fully wholly, original games of itself, whereas the DS had like an absolute ass ton of like original games on it, like exclusively on the DS.
Yeah, and I know when I actually got because I remember Corey had the DS and I didn't have one, so I was, getting good grades in school, so I get me a new system, and then I was just like, you know what, I've not seen the PSP, so I bought the PSP, and looked nice and everything, but it just the interactions that you had with the DS, using the little, the little pen and doing certain things, blowing on it to blow out candles and all that shit. The second screen, it just didn't, in my opinion, just did not. It wasn't matching the same fun as what people were getting with the DS, and I felt bad because it was like I had a choice of the two, and I was like, I'll pick the PSP, and I don't know, I felt really sad that I got it because I was really seeing how fun Corey was having with his, and I was like, playing Need for Speed and all that shit. I'm like, it's not that fun. I rather wish I got the DS instead.
I mean, I really like the PSP, but for like really niche things, because like I had a PSP and I had a Vita. I especially love my Vita. The poor fucking Vita was like so far ahead of its time.
Yeah,
and it's just unfortunate that it was so costly to develop for. Because I mean, having game, because that's the console I played Persona 4 on for the first time all the way through, and that's a hell of a game to be able to carry in your pocket. That's a full blown like JRPG
with an OLED screen of all too. When that was fucking really like brand new technology, they were like, "Let's put
why
it on
it
that."
was so damn expensive.
Yeah,
their screen, like they pushed like the handheld technology like to the limit, and it kind of sucked because I think it was $350 when the Vita came out.
It was expensive. Yeah, I remember that, and it also had the touchpad on the back of the game console too, right?
The touchpad was unneeded, but they forced developers to use it for like the first set of games. So like, Drake's Fortune,
Uncharted,
or whatever that was.
Yeah,
you have the puzzle where you got to tickle the back of your Vita or something. I don't.
It's like the fucking Pillsbury Doughboy every time you do it. It's just like, why did we do this? It's creepy.
Oh, damn it. So I don't know. I just want to know. So then, as we're getting into the topic, then I guess what was your first handheld gaming console, and what made it special to you?
Well, I've like handheld gaming's like has been a special place for me for a long time, because as a kid, when I was young, my parents got divorced, and that's how I ended up moving halfway across the country with my mother. But they were still on decent terms, so every other Christmas break and spring break and every single summer break, I would be swapping, get on a plane, go see my father for those time periods, and go back and forth. And obviously, I love video games as a kid, and what am I going to take with me is going to be my Game Boy. My first one specifically was my Game Boy Color, which was also my first like console, quote unquote, in general that was mine. Was my Game Boy Color. My first game that I ever got on it was Pokemon Gold, and I still have that Game Boy Color to this day. I've held on to it this entire time, and it's just encompassed a special place in my heart because of that. Not only for the portability of it, but because Pokemon's a big part of my life and one of my favorite fandom things, essentially. And that's where Pokemon lived, was on portable consoles for the longest time. And it is just a real special place because the Game Boys and my DS especially, even because if I had to point it out, I would still say my DS is like as a console itself is my more favorite than the Game Boy for me. But it's just the console that was always there for me, no matter where I had to travel to or why. It was always that thing that was just there, ready, waiting for me. And aside from its portability, a lot of my favorite game series, as I just said, is Pokemon. It was primarily on the portable consoles, and Not only that, we weren't necessarily poor like growing up, but I think something that gets overlooked especially is that the fact that those games are typically cheaper than console games, because like DS games are only like $40 new typically, as opposed to a $60 console game. So they were slightly more affordable than regular console games. So it just created this environment where I was generally more exposed to those games than I was to a console. Eventually I had my own consoles and stuff like that, but I still carry my DS around. Hell, when I went up to Massachusetts this year, I brought my DS with me because my fucking 3DS XL has a longer battery life than the fucking Switch does, and I still fucking play games on it. So, I mean, that's kind of why I like it. I mean, that's why kind of like the Pokemon games were special and the Game Boy Color was special for me. Weirdly enough, I didn't have a whole lot of other games for the Game Boy Color. I think the only two that come to mind immediately were Croc, weirdly enough. And I think I had a Donald Duck game on there for my Game Boy as well, and I don't remember what it was called.
Duck or Scrooge McDuck?
No, Donald Duck Going Quackers, I think is what it was called.
Yeah.
It was a shitty game. I hated that game.
Well, Donald is the least loved one out of a lot of the characters in Disney.
What about you, Corey?
So for me, my first handheld was the Game Boy Pocket, and I mean, I was there for like when Pokemon Blue and Red came out, like it was like first released. So like me and a bunch of kids in the neighborhood, we had like various Game Boys. Some people had Game Boy Color because I believe that game also worked on Game Boy Color, but I still just had the Game Boy Pocket, and I still have it. And the clip in the battery pack broke, so I taped it, I stuck it down with one of those stickers that's like one of those like Cholo car stickers that you get for like 75 cents at Cars grocery store back when we were kids. I got one of those, like what do they call, like the little homies or something like that?
Yeah, little homies, LIL.
Yeah, so I got a sticker of that on the back of it to hold the battery pack down so that I could still open it and close it.
I remember that, and I didn't actually ask you about that, but I remember, like, why the fuck do you have this on the back of your Game Boy? But okay, he's got some kind of like homie favor. I don't know what's going on, but all right.
It's still there. It still works. But I played a lot of Tetris DX, and my grandpa also has like an original Game Boy, and he played a lot of Tetris when I would come there. He would play Tetris, and then on regular Nintendo, he'd play a lot of not Super Mario World, but Mario World 3. And so I had Tetris DX, and I would play that. And the handheld for me, outside of like trading Pokemon at the park with friends and a link cable, it was playing in the back of the car while I was on the way to Wasilla to go visit my grandparents, because they were like, an hour and 15 minutes away from the house where I was. And like that's kind of like, because I would prefer to play on like my Super Nintendo or something like that, obviously, because it's like, well, I have a TV and a console. But whenever I left the house, I would always put like, to be able to put a video game in my pocket knowing that I'll be able to play this like at any moment was cool. The downside of like the older handhelds though is like you had to catch the sunlight. So, like, if it was dark in the car, you couldn't play it.
That's a classic feeling going down a highway at night between street lights, desperately hoping to catch the next fucking light so you can see what the fuck you were doing on the game.
Or just hope that your parents will have the ceiling light on. It's like, can I turn this on? Like, I can't fucking see. No.
I remember. I remember for my Game Boy Color, I might actually still have it because I've just carried it around in nostalgia. Like the little light lamp,
the bendable lamp.
In hindsight, is the worst thing ever because it bends directly over the screen, so you can't see anything. Yeah. All it does is cast a glare, and then not only that, just it is visually obstructing it in general. So it was just
$24.99 to have an immediate glare on your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you had like the Iron Man suit for your Game Boy Advance or whatever it was, the fucking giant like armor that you put on with the handheld speakers and magnifying glass that flips down. Mm-hmm. But Game Boy Pocket for sure, and mainly because of Pokemon and being able to like just play Tetris, I suppose. And some weird Japanese pipe game I have called Pipe Dream.
Oh yeah,
I
I remember
don't
that.
even know where it came from. It just like materialized in my house, and then I'm like, well, I guess I'll play this. So, like, I don't remember ever getting it for Christmas or a birthday or anything. It just kind of showed up. Maybe it's haunted.
Maybe it's on it. Maybe.
What about you, Edwin?
So I would say just the Game Boy Advance. It's like nothing like super special, but it's just something that kept me company in in younger years when I was more shy. Like really, the only friend was Anji at the time, so it's just something that kept me busy and entertained. So it's like my favorite games that I played on it were Pokemon, which Fire Red specifically, because I had like Corey's pipe dream. That game just materialized out of somewhere, and then I was like, well, I guess it's mine now. And then that was just my introduction to Pokemon. It was really fucking hard at the time. And then the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, and it had like the Four Swords like compatibility in it. Was it Kirby Return to Dreamland? And then that's the one. And then I beat the game like several times just so I can like play a Shadow, not Shadow, Meta Knight. And then oh yeah, okay, Kingdom Hearts: Chain of Memories for Game Boy. I never beat that one because it's just so much friggin' harder on a handheld than it is on a console. So that was like the 4 games that I played at the time. So just kept me busy for many years, just playing them over and over again because I love them so much.
Nice. And I guess on my side, I started out with the original Game Boy because of my sister. She had gotten that. The same thing happened like with me getting the Super Nintendo. I got that because of my sister. It was basically just hand-me-downs. I had the Mario Baseball on the Game Boy, and I played that in Tetris for a very long time, up until the point when I was basically going to Campfire for my sister because she used to work there and would bring me over there, and that's when I was introduced to Pokemon trading cards. Just seeing all these people, these energy cards and all that stuff, and they just look so cool. And so I got like heavily addicted to that, and then I found out that there was a video game because I saw that Corey had it, and he had Pokemon Red.
Only appropriate time to say that statement.
Yeah. So I had Pokemon. He had Pokemon Red, and then I got Pokemon Blue because I really liked Blastoise at the time. He had Charizard, the seeing of that, and I was wanting to try to get all the Pokemon I could. So I was bringing that around for quite a bit of time, and then later on, I got myself the Pokemon, the Game Boy Color, and I got that for my birthday a long time ago, and I was playing Rugrats, so that was the first time seeing it, basically black and white to seeing actual color. That was a really big change, and then of course it just started changing from that point. But it was just really cool to note that you could actually walk around like the very beginning of time, where you could literally take games with you as you go. You just had to be sure that you had a shitload of batteries, because of course everything required a lot of batteries.
Oh, yeah.
The brick that they used
no
to call
remote was safe.
Yeah, with no brick, with no batteries, that shit it was heavy enough, but then you put 4 AA's in it, now it's really heavy and you're trying to play with that. It was kind of shitty. And the Game Boy Pocket, I had that too, and it's for anybody else, but for me personally, when I was playing it, it was dying a lot because it used AA's, so I didn't play with that much. I think I had the green one, is the Game Boy Pocket, and then I got the yellow Game Boy Color. So I was like playing with those for quite some time. That was very helpful to me because again, it was a lot of times we'd be riding around, going from place to place, wanting to just be able to do something in the meantime while you're waiting. So that was something fun for me. So for I guess for my second question for everybody is, which handheld console do you think had the best library of games?
I feel like that's kind of been covered. It's just
probably
the
DS.
Yeah.
Is that what you were going to say, Edwin?
Yeah, it's like we kind of already covered that. It had like a monster library, and it was the most innovative games because it's just like I still remember like some of the games, like the I think it's specifically the Brain game is the one that comes to mind, where it's like,
oh, Brain Age.
Brain Age. Just hold the DS sideways, weirdo.
Yeah, Brain Age was really fun. I mean, I'll just chime in real quick about like why I think the DS, because their initial launch of titles, like they had Trauma Center, which like usually when a game that comes out or a console that comes out with like some sort of gimmick, like they maximize the use of the gimmicks, and usually those games suck. But like Nintendo really understands the gimmick that they're putting forth, and I feel like I've already planned all of these games around the gimmick as they were developing the console, so it's not just like an afterthought, like PlayStation 3's Lair, where they're like, it's a motion-controlled dragon. But the DS had Trauma Center, it had Trace Memory, which was my first DS game, oddly enough, and then it had that Professor Layton, and there was another one. I had something called Feel the Magic, but they really like push the like blow into the microphone, like uncover clues, draw a circle, or do this thing, or like touchscreen stuff. And it didn't feel bad to do. It was all really like innovative and entertaining. Like it never felt like a chore, like, oh, I have to get the stylus out. Because if you go to some pawn shops and try to pick up an old DS, you'll see if somebody really enjoyed that DS, because that screen is totally fucked.
Someone has never played Pokemon Ranger.
That game was so annoying.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, I generally agree with you. I'm just memeing. I mean, I agree with Corey. I'm literally just memeing, though. It's like Pokemon Ranger. It's like, use the stylus to draw a circle around the Pokemon to capture them. Do that 700 times. Enjoy Carpal Tunnel at 7. That was the worst thing fucking ever.
That game was so freaking stressful. I'm surprised I didn't damage the bottom screen trying to do that. It was just like, draw circles as fast as you can. Just scribbling, as like, like almost denting the DS, trying to like make circles.
But that's the thing, and you're doing it. So you have to do it so fast and with so much accuracy. Like you are giving yourself like wrist problems because you are fucking going at it so hard.
Imagine trying to catch a legendary Pokemon in that game, and you don't have a stylus. You're just running your finger into the DS.
Yeah, it's because it's funny because I do think a lot of people did enjoy the DS for that reason. But, you know, weirdly enough, I played mainly Pokemon games on my portable. I had a few here and there that weren't those, but, I mean, like, even when they weren't, you know, something like Kirby Squeak Squad, which was my first Kirby game that I just bought on a whim. Its touchscreen interaction wasn't anything more than just, like, tap the bottom screen to use a stored power-up. That's about it. Otherwise, it just played as a normal Kirby game.
Well, I had this...
Canvas Curse.
I had a bullet hell game called Nanostray. I think there's a second one as well, but that one is not like super interactive, I guess. Like it uses the dual screens kind of like a long screen, so you can see the enemy placement and stuff. But like I think you use the stylus to like change your weapon type and stuff like that. But that game is really fun. I still have a copy of that too.
So what handheld game left the biggest impression on you, and why?
Handheld game. I mean, I want to throw it at Pokemon. Just because of like how prevalent it is today. I mean, like playing Pokemon Red and Blue with the entire neighborhood, like literally finding kids that like you didn't meet before, but they're out there. Kind of like Pokemon Go in a sense, where everybody was like coming together. Like you wanted to trade Pokemon with people, and so when I was like riding my bike around the neighborhood, you'd see somebody sitting in their yard playing, and you're like, "Hey, I need a Alakazam or whatever," and they're like, "Okay." Mm-hmm. It's kind of like there was no other game like it, and you could almost argue that there still isn't really a game that does that to like an entire community.
It's look. I mean, I guess if I was being honest, I'd say Pokemon as well. Obviously, it's stuck with me for so very long. But I mean, I have a couple IPs that I love that originated with portable, with like the Game Boy, I think, because as I've mentioned before, I really like Advance Wars, and that caught its stride on the Game Boy, which was fun because I was a big fan of Age of Empires on the computer. So Advanced Wars was like an RTS, in your pocket. And it was a pretty good RTS for a pocket RTS that only ran on a Game Boy Advance. I mean, I still love Advanced Wars. When they announced the remake for the Switch, I was super happy about it. And
yeah, Advanced Wars was really cool. I remember seeing that game for the first time. It was in ninth grade history class, and this dude was like, "Hey," had his Game Boy in the history book, like he was reading and playing it. But the way the desks were situated, like I could see what he was doing. I'm like, "Hey, man, what game is that?" He's like, "Oh, it's called Advanced Wars." I was like, "Oh man, the game looks freaking cool." And like I ended up picking it up, and that game is really fun.
yeah, it was just charming. It was like a little cartoony little RTS. Like I said, I liked RTSs. I liked playing Age of Empires as a kid, so it was just having an RTS in my pocket. So that was really fun about it. And even though I said it kind of as a negative, but a lot of the first times I played Super Nintendo games, like Yoshi's Island, was on the Game Boy Advance as well. Well, I remember my DS a lot. I could probably count on one hand like the games that weren't Pokemon that I played on it. Actually, a fun one that actually did use the touchscreen a lot was Cookin' Mama. That was a fun little game.
Oh yeah, Cookin' Mama was great.
Yeah, like basically WarioWare, but wholesome, and you're just cooking food. Even though I always found, I remember I bought Cookin' Mama. One of the first recipes you make, this shows how Japanese the game is, but they didn't change it for like overseas. One of the first recipes you make is squid ink pasta, and as someone who's not from Japan, that sounds like the most disgusting thing imaginable, and you're like, what the fuck am I making? Like, it's just such disgusting.
Wait, Corey, didn't we go somewhere that gave us like cold noodles and they were like purple or black? Was that it?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just like,
yeah, it's a thing, and I'm sure it tastes fine. It's just like, as anyone who doesn't eat that regularly, that like on face value, that sounds disgusting. Like,
yeah, we all looked at it. It's just like, not only is it cold noodles, which we obviously prefer hot, but it's like, it was also very dark.
I'll get used to that. Japanese love their cold noodles.
Get them cold.
I mean, cold soba is just like a thing they eat in the summer. Like it's just,
I don't doubt it. I mean, it was so damn hot.
Here's the thing: everyone eats cold noodles. Fucking macaroni, pasta salads, just cold noodles. But back to video games.
We're still on topics, Nintendo.
Yeah. Then they had and then the DS had fun spin-off games like Persona Q. I played that a lot. That was a really fun game. Was Persona Q, which is just a little dungeon delver spin-off of Persona, which
there was a lot of those on the DS.
But the thing is, they were all original though, and I feel like what I was explaining to Corey the night before was that portable gaming. I genuinely think, for the most part, they had really banger games, primarily because you're working within this limitation of, like, you already know at the outset you're not going to be on the cutting edge of graphics because you're working within the limitations of a DS or what have you. And so they would focus on the gameplay, and it had to be a fun gameplay loop, and which ended up making a bunch of, original games on the DS, because I played Story of Seasons was on the DS. That was basically Harvest Moon's successor. They lived on the DS. They only switched over when the Switch became a thing. I was talking to Corey about Lost in Blue. That's a game that lives rent free in my head, which is basically like an island survival game on the original DS. That's not even a 3DS game. I was on the original DS. I know Metroid has had a few games on the DS that were fun. I mean, the second Luigi's Mansion was on the DS, Dark Moon. That's only now getting a remake on console editions. But I mean, the sequel to Luigi's Mansion was put on the DS, and that was really good. I just had another one in my head. As I already mentioned, fucking Kirby. And then just fun, smaller ones, because everyone loved Nintendogs. That was a fun little game that came, that was a launch title for the DS. That was just a fun little simulation taking care of dogs.
Popular Nintendogs was. The game was, so pushed. They had Nintendogs, edition DSs and stuff.
Yeah, that's what me and Andy had.
There was, almost their own Pokemon Red and Blue, because there was, Pomeranian edition or whatever.
Yeah. Oops.
Well, it was like the Nintendo DS because me and Anji, that's how we got the DS, is because we wanted Nintendogs. I was like, oh, here's a bundle that comes with a special DS with like paw print stickers for the DS, and then it was like a skyish teal blue, and then it's like you just put the stickers on there. It's like, there you go, that's the Nintendogs DS, and then that shit lasts forever.
You gotta hand it to Nintendo, man. They know exactly how to release 5,000 of the same console.
Well, here's a funny story about the Nintendogs, right? So Nintendogs was born. Here's some fun trivia. Nintendogs was born out of just Miyamoto having interactions with his own dog, and he's just like, turn that shit into a game. And what's funny afterwards is that people were trying to push him to make Nintendo cats, because it's like, that's the obvious next idea. It's like, well, what's the most popular pet next to dogs is cats.
Nintendo gerbils.
Nintendo gerbils. But Miyamoto was like, but what do you do with cats? Because he didn't have a cat at the time. So he was like, no, he poo-pooed the idea. He's like, no, we're not doing Nintendo cats because they're not as interactive as dogs. And then Miyamoto got a cat. And then he was like, oh, cats are pretty cool. He was still on the fence of being like, he's like, cats are cool. I'm still right, but cats are cool. Like, you could do some things with cats, but you can't do as much as with a dog. And I think everyone with a brain would probably agree. But it's like, but then that's how Nintendogs plus cats was born. They just remade Nintendogs and tacked on some cats to it because Nintendo Cats wasn't going to be able to be its own game. So they just remade the game, but added cats to the game as like a little side thing because Miyamoto was like, you know what, give them cats, I guess. I don't know. We're not making a whole nother game though.
And then you have like that third party one where it's just like all the animals, one for each.
Well, those were like side ones. Those were a different company making all the other pet simulators on the DS.
Yeah, and they look like ass.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Get them.
I don't have to. They did it to themselves. But it's like going back to the question. It was like I was like, obviously, it's like, yeah, you have to say Pokemon, and especially the fact that it's a Nintendo product. You know that they can innovate the hell out of that. I was like, as years have passed, you can see there's like you get Pokemon Rangers, you get Pokemon Park, I guess. You get Legends Arceus, things like that, Pokemon Unite. So it's just like, yeah, it's very innovative in Nintendo's hands, as it would probably be ruined to the ground by any other one. Well, but it's like, yeah, it was like, because like if you want to, if you really like Pokemon, you'll swallow your anxiety and everything that's keeping you away from human interaction to go and ask for someone, hey, I really want an Alakazam, help me out, man. Or I was like, I really want all the starters, please. I was like, I don't know who you are, you don't know who I am. Oh, come on, we can help each other out.
It's kind of funny because like it's well, as a funny side note, as I've said, I'm still going on my walks playing Pokemon Go, and it's kind of hilarious seeing the people in that community being like, why are you making remote raid passes so hard to do? We don't like getting together. I'm like, it's a fucking fitness app, you crazy people. Like, fucking go outside and get together and do a raid. The fuck is wrong with you? But aside from that, it's kind of funny with the advent of like the internet and well, not the internet, but like Nintendo realizing how the internet works and the Pokemon Company, doing the thing with Scarlet and Violet, like interactions becoming less and less like special in that aspect, where like there was something this, it's a nostalgic feeling of popping up the old link cable for the old Game Boy Advances to trade Pokemon. Even the DSs, when it was still only like when they upgraded to it being local wireless, it was still something special to be trade Pokemon in that sense.
I mean, I used to ride my bike around the neighborhood with my binder of cards to do this exact same thing.
Even though I will say, as much as I love Advance Wars, its heyday was on the Game Boy Advance, by the way. The two games that came out on the DS after the fact kind of suck ass. I do not like them. I think it was Dual Strike and Days of Ruin. Don't like either one of those. Advance Wars is Advance Wars 1 and Advance Wars 2, and then I'll throw in the remake, but Days of Ruin and Dual Strike, they weren't that great.
All right, so I guess I kind of know what I'm probably going to hear, but I just want to check in with everybody to see what they think. So between the Nintendo DS and the PSP, which do you think had the better design and the gameplay experience?
So I think the DS has the better gameplay experience, but the PSP has like a sleeker design. It was very comfortable to hold. It looked really nice.
Deja vu.
Well, it also like generally was more powerful. So the games, I mean, the PS Vita, PSP. Well, I don't know, but I have more experience by Vita. The Vita was like holding a PS2, walking around with a PS2 in your hand, and if you're basing them off of those merits, because the DS had cool gimmicks, but it was most of them were thrown to the side shortly after conception with the touch screen and the 3D implementation. Those were fun for about a week, and then every other game that comes out, every game that you remember on the DS that was good, like their like usability with those gimmicks was very limited. It's like not the reason why those games were good. So I mean, I just think the Vita gets an unfair rap when you compare them like side by side. The Vita's a really good handheld. I have less experience with the PSP. I mainly just played Battlefront on it, but that was a big deal having Battlefront in your pocket, or like playing stuff like Daxter and stuff like that on the regular PSP. I want to play Fate Extra, which I have, and I just haven't gotten around to playing yet. But I mean, I played all through Persona 4 on, the PS Vita. But I generally agree with Corey, because, I mean, I'm playing a whole JRPG, Persona 4. Like, I played that for, like, weeks on end on the Vita, and it was comfortable to hold. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't, like, hurting my hands. Like, I like my Game Boy SP, and maybe it's because I'm an adult now, but that thing is so damn tiny, I can't hold it for very long periods of time. I could, like, hold the entire thing with one hand. But the Vita and the DS were really comfortable to hold. I don't know. I like both of them. I have a lot of love for my Vita, but I mean, obviously, I've spent way more time on my DS, though.
Anything from you, Edwin?
So it's like the DS was like just an entertaining innovation to playing a game in a specific way. So it's just like it was just a whole different experience that you would get playing on there than you would playing on any other console.
Yeah.
Except maybe like a smartphone mobile, but I don't know how prevalent that was at the time of the DS release. But I didn't really have a lot of games for PSP because I already had like a bunch of stuff on the PlayStation 2. I wanted to try something new. But like one of the few games that were downloaded on there by my cousin, I think the only 3 games that I actually played on there were Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, Yu-Gi-Oh! What is it? Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Tag Duel 5 or something like that. And then obviously the personal favorite, as I mentioned a couple of times, is Valkyrie Profile, which I played the absolute hell out of that. But it's like I can understand like everyone's point for the PSP not getting like enough credit, but I didn't really like the style that the console was. I was like, when I saw the PS Vita, that was like a lot more interesting looking to like play on, because it just fit my hands better than the PSP 3000 that I had, because having that analog stick just sucked. That one tiny one. And then
you just said it, because I just thought about that, because again, I have more experience with my Vita. I'm speaking from the Vita. If you're talking like a DS to a PSP, yeah, the PSP is kind of hard to hold, because I hated that tiny little like flat joystick thing on the left hand side. That was terrible. Like the way they redesigned it for the Vita was like 10,000 times better.
And
it was like an actual joystick.
And wasn't that analog stick actually the speaker too? Wasn't it like the sound was coming? Wasn't that a speaker / analog stick?
No,
I thought?
no.
I
don't think it was near it.
It was just weird feeling. It felt like I was touching a speaker.
It was flat. Well, yeah, it was like a flat little. It wasn't like a real analog stick. Like they kind of did it.
The analog stick that you have for the 3DS now, like that's what that analog stick is, but just
except for the
so
3DS
much smaller.
Well, the 3DS one's way better though. That actually, even though it's flat, it does feel like a real analog stick though.
It's just like a tiny analog underneath the D-pad, but there's like 2 holes in the top underneath the shoulder buttons on the PSP that were the speakers.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably get a lot more entertainment out of the PS Vita than I actually got on the regular PSP. But it was like it's more biased considering it was like I just had more interest in games from the Nintendo side than I did from the PlayStation side. It was just it was more of a I guess it was more of a money issue and lack of interest for that side.
So then I guess I can just really quick one here is so we probably know the answer again. We'll just check in and see. But what handheld system had the most unique or innovative features, do you think?
3DS.
Yeah,
It did
technically
everything the
speaking,
DS was,
3DS.
but had 3D.
Yeah, well, really, the only thing it was missing is just like a port for like Game Boy games. Like,
Yeah,
but
they got rid of the
removed
Game
that.
Boy Advance port, which was unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's technically speaking, it's the DS kind of the 3DS hands down. Even though all those gimmicks people don't remember at all, they never used them.
Like
I wouldn't really count like because like DS also had like pictures and like a notepad and like all this other stuff. There was like a lot to it if you really dove into the DS outside of just games. They had like little apps and stuff like that, but it was a pretty cool like device if you were to go explore outside of the gaming experience of a DS, because they had like a weird FaceTime almost type thing that you could do with nearby DSs and.
Actually, now that I think about it, like remembering all the features that the 3DS did have, it was almost like a smartphone because you could go on the internet and go on YouTube and all that stuff, and you could take pictures and.
I think it had Netflix, right?
Yeah, it even had Netflix, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah, so it was like a semi-smartphone, and I can also play like a bunch of games on it. So I was like, and the only thing you couldn't do was, I guess, make calls. But I guess I don't know if you can send messages on it.
Well, it had a mic on it so that you could actually talk to somebody else. I think they had a voice chat or some. It was like they had a chat thing that was completely separate outside of games. But I don't think games were allowed to have chat because then they would have to make the ESRB rating different because there's player-to-player interaction, which you can't control. They kind of do the same thing with their like weird Nintendo app back when they were trying to do online gaming, but they didn't want to do voice chat.
They have voice chat. You just have to jump through like 7 hoops to get it to work.
Yeah, it's to prevent the rating of the game going up.
So, which handheld console's graphics impressed you the most for its time?
Vita.
Probably PSP or Vita.
The Vita's like it. That screen is so nice. Like it has a really good display. Not to say that the DS didn't have decent graphics, but the DS was usually having a handicap of usually most of its games being stylized, so it wasn't really striving for cutting edge graphics. But like I said, the Vita was carrying a PS2 in your pocket because you had really nice, anime looking games like Danganronpa. You had like the entire library of that on the Vita that you could play. Persona itself is pretty nice looking. I mean, the 3D models are a little rough, but I mean, as far as like the clarity of the picture and the vibrant colors, like the Vita had a great display. I love the Vita's display. It looks so nice.
I would say honorable mention for Game Boy Advance is Golden Sun because that game looks really good.
Oh yeah, I mean pixel. Yeah, I mean like pixel stuff always looks great.
They have that weird like Donkey Kong Country, like almost pre-rendered 3D kind of animation characters in like the battle sequences. That game, like when I think back of what's the best looking like Game Boy Advance game, like Golden Sun is up there.
What was the question again? Real quick.
It was which handheld console graphics impressed you the most for its time?
Switch Scarlet and Violet. Just want to throw that in there.
Well, you're throwing off the podcast.
Are you surprised in a negative way?
Yeah.
No,
like, wow, I can't believe they make them this bad.
Yeah. Wow, I can't believe they forgot the textures.
They're so good you can't even see them.
Yeah.
No, it was like, it's like the PSP. It was like if you were playing Kingdom Hearts games before the PSP, then you would know playing Birth by Sleep that they still have those really nice cutscenes in there, and then. Like that's one of the things that pulled me in when I was playing Valkyrie Profile was just those super nice cutscenes. So it's just like, like obviously the DS is not going to be able to do that. So like the PSP is going to take that medal.
Square knows. I mean, Crisis Core, they had the cutscenes, and after watching like the Advent Children movie, I was like, damn, this looks so good.
Oh, the PSP had Blaze Blue on it. That's always a really cool fucking game to look at.
Oh yeah, Blaze Blue is freaking amazing.
Oh yeah, not to mention, it was a complete forgot. It was like that. The PSP could also play movies on
Yeah.
it, so it's like that's another plus on.
To
that.
be fair, you could get the fun little cartridges for the Game Boy Advance that had like preloaded
Episodes of like SpongeBob or Fairly
like
Odd Parents.
Pokemon and shit. Like
Yeah, the Game Boy Advance, yeah, they had like 2 episodes or 1 episode or something like that. Like the UMD movies for PSP, I have House of Flying Daggers and the Cowboy Bebop movie for some reason. I think they came with it when I bought it or something.
For some reason.
That's a very specific addition to a PSP.
Yeah.
It's Cowboy Bebop. You're probably too young to know what that is.
Like, okay, I'll take this on the plane, I guess.
All right.
Damn, they had some Dynasty Warrior games on the PSP too. Shit.
So, do you prefer handheld consoles with physical media, like cartridges, or digital downloads? Why?
For handheld, I mean, like, I'm a sucker for physical media in general, and I love having the physical collection. I could see a strong benefit though to the digital only like handhelds because you're traveling and you don't have to haul a bag full of games. Because I remember being like the Game Boy. I never had like any name brand Game Boy travel bags, but I know that there used to be like these binders from Nintendo where you could put all your stuff and everything else with like extra battery packs and all that jazz. But it would be like carrying 40 game carts in a bag just so you can have a library of games.
Yeah, but they were easy to carry around. I mean,
yeah, they're small.
Because I was the guy who had a little backpack that I would always carry around with all my DS and Game Boy shit.
Yeah.
I had constant little packs of the cartridges. I mean, the cartridges as they are, I mean, I like cartridges, and even the little SD cards we have now with the DS and the Switch. I like them. Probably the worst thing about them is that unless they're in their case or in somewhere, they're going to lose them very
really
easily.
mess them up.
So that kind of sucks about it. I mean, I wish they'd take more advantage. I mean, considering the fucking DS's store is shut down now, which kind of sucks. But like when they had they did take advantage of it in a way, because when they re-released Pokemon Red, Yellow, Blue, Gold, Silver, and Crystal on the 3DS eShop as digital downloads, it was cool because they added functionality to them so you could buy them and download them. And I bought all of them except for blue version. I still kick myself for not just buying the blue version. But you could play them, but then they added functionality with them that you could connect them to the Pokemon Home at the time, so you could play the old games and then finally transfer your Pokemon from the old games to the new games, which originally you couldn't do. So that was kind of a cool plus they did. I mean, granted, could they have re-released it as like a cartridge with all the games on it? Probably they could have, but I don't know why it was only digital. But I'm always just a sucker for physical media, anyways. I just want everything to be physical. So
yeah.
Well, I can understand like the physical, just like appreciation for just having it like on the shelf, like your display of all the games. There does go to a point where it's like you just have so many that now it's like now it's just going to be its own personal box of things you have to pick up and move every time you like move houses or you need to like rummage through. But it's just like now at this point, it's just like. If I have like an initial travel bag for whatever console like I'm using it for, that like once the game holders are inside are full, like my now travel bag for my Switch, like they're all double stacked on top of each other in each like cartridge slot. So now it's just like I don't buy the physical copies for those anymore. Now I just download them on the Switch because I had no fucking space for it. So I was like, I miss out on having a shelf of all those games, but it's like I don't want to have the same issue that Corey has when it's like he has like an entire like supply of video games from the past. And it's like I don't want to be moving all that stuff around. I was like, I don't know how you did it for years, but I don't want to do that
because it's worth a lot of money, and I don't want to throw it away.
Because it's cool. Because you see a problem. I went to Corey's house and saw that. I'm like, man, I want that.
I mean,
I want that problem.
I want it too, but it's just like I don't want to move all that stuff around. And plus, Corey, you have like you have all that stuff, but you better hope to God that your children like appreciate it as much as you do. Otherwise, it's all going to go to the waste.
They better.
Well, they could either appreciate it or wind up in an oven.
No, look,
Be
my baby
weary
back
of
ribs are here.
Uncle Udon.
Get in the oven, kids. All right.
Listen,
Yeah,
I'll babysit,
Don't
but
mind
as
me
soon
in
as one
my
of them
gingerbread house that I live in.
I was like, I'll babysit, but they break one of my anime figures or some shit that's worth money. They're going to be turned into a meatloaf, and I'm going to give it to you.
You know,
With-
it's
with
funny
some nice
because like
mashed potatoes.
even like what you're talking about with like traveling stuff. Like I used to go like spend the night at like a friend's house or something, and I'd have like my PS2 or PS1 in my backpack with like because it wouldn't be like, oh, I brought 3 games over. I would bring like every game I had, so it would just be a backpack full of video games, so that we could try like 20 games, or we're trying to stay up past 1 in the morning or whatever when we're 12. It was so like that part was so fun though. Like I like the nostalgia of just like sitting down and it's like, okay, it's dinner time now. It's time to game out until we fall asleep, and we got pizza, Mountain Dew, and basically a Dreamcast and PS2 and one TV that's like 1,000 pounds. Let's figure this out.
I mean, some of my friends would like use the giant CD holders that people used to use for their music, but use them for their games. So you just bring up like the big binder full of CDs. I actually still have a smaller one that's full of my Xbox 360 CDs that I don't have the cases for anymore.
I don't know if I still have it. It's got to be around here somewhere. But Devil May Cry 2 on PS2 came with a Devil May Cry 2 CD case. And so it's like, oh, I could just put all my games in there. But then you can lose all your games in one spot.
yeah, you lose it all in one go.
Yeah, I can lose them all at once.
At least you still got the cases.
So, which handheld console game do you believe should be ported over to a console or a PC?
Well, since Pokemon kind of has made its way to console already, we don't really have to say that we wish Pokemon had a console version, because now we're getting those only.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're getting those because for whatever reason,
Fire Emblem Fire Emblem started on Nintendo, and then it kind of navigated its way through handhelds until it like resurfaced onto GameCube. But like Golden Sun is something I would love to see just make its way onto a console. I don't even care if it's a remake of the original and not like a continuation, because that's such an underappreciated franchise that needs to just like blossom somewhere, especially with turn-based RPGs having like a niche but large fan base. I'm guarantee if they were to announce that Golden Sun was coming back and they kept it in a very similar way, that they would probably hit a sales mark. But they can't spend 10 years developing the game. They get 3 years to make it cool, and then see what happens, because it could lend itself to that 2.5D pixel art stuff they were trying to do, or with like all these other games. Because now that that's an option, it's Golden Sun kind of just lives on the Game Boy Advance, and I think there's a DS, like the third one's on DS, but that might be a remake of the first one. I can't really remember, but that needs to make its way to like a full console release of something, because that'd be really cool. And it's not like overly gimmicked to the handheld area, because some games are. Like Trauma Center got a Wii release, Cookin' Mama got a Wii release, because those lend itself with the motion controls. But because Golden Sun is just a game that exists on Game Boy Advance, the transfer is easy, to me at least.
It probably would be, like, because I'm really trying to rack my brain, but it's like everything, because originally my answer would have been Advance Wars, but we've already crossed that bridge, and everything that is worth porting over or continuing from portable has been essentially, like, everything that I was invested in, from Fire Emblem to Animal Crossing to Pokemon, like even Luigi's Mansion and shit like that, all of that was first on portable, but now all of it's being brought over to the Switch, which is
Battle Network has made its way onto a collection of like Battle Network games, I think and I think there's a Battle Network game on GameCube as well. But I'm trying to think of any other like regular.
I mean, I had a niche game for the DS that I played called Conception 2, Children of the Seven Stars. I thought that was pretty fun. I wouldn't mind seeing like a remake or a remaster of that for a console port.
That's that Compile Arts game.
Yeah, it's a cute little anime game. I never beat it. It gets pretty fucking difficult at a certain point, but I enjoyed it well enough. Yeah, I can't.
Maybe Yokai Watch. Was there a console version?
Oh
of Yokai Watch?
Yokai Watch. That was a niche little game that I liked. Yeah, I would like to see more Yokai Watch. I thought those games were pretty fun. It wasn't a Pokemon killer, but I mean, it was fun. I thought the concept was cool. In fact, I actually want to get those games again for my DS, even though they're kind of expensive now.
I didn't really have like an idea of what to put on there, but it's like I was thinking for a little bit, but really the only thing I can think of was like a Nintendogs for VR would probably make sense. But I'm not. I don't know.
That would make sense.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. I can't really think of anything else that hasn't already been kind of done in some
It has
way.
an opportunity to be the saddest thing in the planet, where it's like, I know your pet passed away, but you could visit them again.
That's exactly what I was thinking, but I didn't want to.
If you pay $10, we'll bring it back to life.
Yeah, pay $10, you can cry in your living room. But first, you're gonna mark out a play area with your Oculus ones.
I wouldn't mind seeing Persona Q, I guess, come to Switch or something, even if it was just like a basic remaster. But I mean,
Have they done any sort of Pokemon VR stuff or no?
no,
I don't think so. I mean, there is that
have.
VR thing for the Switch, but I don't think anything is like utilized it that much.
Oh yeah, the fucking fabulous cardboard Labo that worked out well.
Yeah, we made you guys buy shoot boxes for a lot of money, idiots.
It's the most expensive cardboard you're ever buy.
I swear to God, that shit was made because someone at Nintendo was drunk one night and just dared someone else to do it. And it's just like, bet you can't make them buy cardboard. It's like, bet you I can.
What if it was a piano?
So stupid.
Damn it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what game series or genre do you think worked best on the handheld consoles?
RPGs.
Yeah, RPGs, because I mean that's kind of RPGs are like easygoing life sims, just like really casual games. Something that like it's almost like two sides of the spectrum. It's like you either have like something that you're committed to for a long period of time that like is easier to just like, because obviously, you know, picking up and play a JRPG is going to take forever, but like if you're able to pick it up and put it down in like little bite-sized pieces with your portable console, it makes it a lot more digestible in the long run. But then also stuff like, you know, Animal Crossing, you know, Cooking Mama, Nintendogs, all these like casual games that people also play a fuck ton of hours on portable, just because you can take it and go lie on your bed and get really fucking comfy and play it and stuff like that.
I mean, there's a lot of portable games that are mainly like platformers, and it's just kind of like usually that's where you get your Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and Disney games that are all the same thing. Go to the right of the screen, jump, and try not to die. And those are all just like usually like trash games. They're the ones that you find in the bin for like $1. But like RPGs on handhelds are very like expensive games when you go back to find them, and you know they're usually like a little bit deeper because it's just like an offshoot of a Final Fantasy game, or you know you got the Pokemon franchise, you got Golden Sun like we've mentioned, but there's Tales games that are there. There's a Star Ocean game on the PSP, and you know they're you know. I would imagine if you had to put it in the perspective of like being in Japan, sitting on the train and going, like you could just bust out the PSP and play like an hour or something like that. And like I could see how that would be a lot more fun than just turning on like Mario for a level or something like that. So yeah, I would say that.
Even though I would say platformers are probably like the third runner-up as far as like good handheld games, because it's really.
If you want to talk about worst games. I don't know if that's a
first-person shooters.
Yeah, actually, I would say racing games for the most part.
No, because
not Mario Kart, but like if there's any other racing games I've seen, they don't translate very well on like a Game Boy Advance or something like that. But fighting games, I have played like Mortal Kombat. I've played Tekken on like handheld, and they're very. The button combos are limited, the graphics are limited because of the memory size, the character roster is limited. So it's just such a like hors d'oeuvre version of the thing that you're used to. So it's like, here's that game you like, but it only has 5 characters. And it's like, well, that kind of sucks. There's only
Well, I
one.
think it has to be like
really got into, which was Jump Ultimate All Stars on DS, which was so good.
Yeah, it's what I was gonna follow. I think if you're gonna do a fighting game, I think that it can be done well, but it has to be like built from the ground up for a mobile thing. It has to be like a 2D pixel art like platform fighter essentially. Because let's also not forget Smash Brothers exists on the 3DS, which is technically a fighting game. But I also played, it wasn't Jump All Stars, but I don't remember what Naruto game it was, but I had a Naruto game for the DS that was a fighter like that, and I thought it was really good. I can't remember the name of it, but I thought it was pretty fun for the DS.
I could say
it's definitely few and far between them.
As the consoles got more advanced, but when you look back at like Game Boy Advance, like that was a very rough period for that particular genre.
Yeah. But definitely first-person shooters. I mean, I know Metroid has had some all-right games on it, but I just don't know. I find
Coded Harms was hard to play, even though the graphics look really nice. I could not play it. It was so damn hard. The controllers were like upside down, basically.
Which one?
Coded Arms.
Coded Arms. Oh,
yeah.
Is that another Wild Arms game?
I think I have that game.
No, it was like a wannabe Samus Metroid kind of thing, but it was for PSP. That was like one of the first games I got with the Need for Speed, and I was really impressed with the graphics. It was damn good, but the gaming on how the shooting and everything was it was so weird. It just was confusing. Yeah. So, let's go ahead and jump into, if you could bring one classic handheld game back, which would it be?
Golden Sun.
Well, there you go. Again, my answer was stolen like a year ago for Advance Wars. I generally, most everything that I played on portable has all been ported over essentially. Like again, unless I get direct remasters of portable exclusive versions of these IPs like Persona Q or something, but I mean, I'm kind of satisfied as far as that can go.
Yeah. Oddly enough, they brought Trace Memory and the sequel that never came to America onto the Switch.
Oh, you know what? No, I take it back. Hold on. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you because I just figured it. Lost in Blue, because me and Corey went into a deep dive of it. I only mentioned it briefly already, but Lost in Blue is a little,
way ahead of its time from what I saw.
Island crafting survival game, like story-driven survival game on the DS that only exists. I think the latest one was on the Wii, and it looked like ass. But like the first game I played and was really fun. Like I feel like if remake that, keep the serious tone, and put it on the Switch or something, like a really modernized version, but keep the serious tone and not whatever doofy art style they fucking developed later on in the series. That I'd actually like to see like a new version of that.
What about you, Edward?
Sorry, I didn't mean.
I have absolutely no idea that hasn't already been like established. So it's like the fact that it's like already been remastered or ported over to the Nintendo library.
I mean, it hasn't been made yet, and there's been no there's been no announcement of it yet. Even though if anyone knows anything, it's probably going to come eventually. But I do want to see Pokemon Black and White remake. That'd be nice. I want to see it done well. Crossing my fingers.
Yeah.
Holding my breath. I know a lot of people weren't really happy with the Diamond and Pearl remakes. I thought they were fine. I mean, they weren't fantastic, don't get me wrong. They're not Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but they were fine.
Well,
it wasn't Scarlet and Violet.
It would be really cool if they brought the Mario and Luigi franchise to the console.
Oh, wouldn't that be crazy? Oh my god, they are! It's coming out Friday!
Yeah. I wonder what
they don't have a lot. I don't think it's possible for them to like add if they can somehow make it on the Switch or like maybe like the Switch 2 or something to have the possibility or like the functionality that the Wii U did, where you can play it on the kind of like a DS. So like the bottom part is in your hands, and then the upper part of the DS is on the TV. If they can make that with the Switch, then they can add a DS library in there.
I feel like they could anyways. You just have to cherry pick the DS games that basically take very little advantage of the touchscreen. Because I don't think there's any reason you can't port over, Pokemon Black and White and Diamond and Pearl, because you could just because all it is menuing. That's all the touchscreen does.
I know, but it's like some like the where you need the 2-screen functionality, because it's
I
understand.
Fit
on one screen.
So, I understand.
People have already been doing that type of thing where like their ROG Ally or the Steam Deck, where they just like get a totally legal copy of a DS game and then just do that same thing where they play it like a Wii U, because like that's how you play the Twilight Princess on the Wii U is like the menus on the bottom in your hands on the Wii U tablet, and then you play the actual game on the TV. Like it's simple, but I really liked it. It's like playing like DS games like that would be really cool too.
Okay. I think the unfortunate part is that doesn't work for everything, because you can't play something like Kirby Canvas Curse like that, because it'd be really confusing.
So
try.
So which handheld console felt the most comfortable or intuitive to use for long sessions?
I think we kind of already answered this, but I mean, it's a tie between. Well, I think the 3DS, specifically the 3DS and the Vita, are both perfectly suited for long periods of gaming. Because here's the thing,
I was just saying, for me, it was like every time I played for long periods of hand, I had like red indentations in my hand. It was like, I've been playing this game for way too fucking long.
Oh, it never bothered me. But you know what bothers me fucking playing for long periods of time is the fucking Switch. The thing's heavy after a while. I hate holding it for long periods of time.
Try ROG Ally.
DS and the Vita, though.
Ally is pretty heavy, and it also gets pretty warm after a while. But for me, SP probably. Like I just love playing the SP, especially because like I would put a long session on the Two Towers game, because it played like Diablo. So I could just sit there and just play Two Towers until the battery needed to be charged again.
I mean, I could when I had tiny hands, but now that my entire hand is the size of the SP, my hand cramps if I'm using it for too long.
You should get the Game Boy Advance Micro for some reason.
I just crush it with my hand.
Like the size of a wheat bin.
Every time I try and press A, I press the A, B, and the D-pad all at once.
Yeah. Fuck, I reset it again.
Yeah.
All right, so what's a handheld game you think is underrated and deserves more attention?
Lost in Blue.
Yeah, Lost in Blue. I would say, obviously, Golden Sun again.
What about the game you had me play yesterday, Corey?
Oh, yes, Contact. That is a very important... That's an Atlas game, and I really like that game a lot. It's on DS. It has a really cool combat system. Inventory system's kind of nice. The healing mechanics are nice. The game's kind of funny. It does a lot of fourth wall stuff. It's just like kind of like a Zelda-like, I guess, like a top-down adventure RPG that has like active battle mechanics. But I don't think that you're attacking. I think you just go into attack mode and then like wait for the outcome of what the battle is. And it's driven through like outfits that you wear or the types of moves you have. And the way that you heal is your character's hungry, because it's kind of like a survival game, but food also has heal factor versus how much it occupies your stomach, so you also have to digest things. So it kind of is a cure for the Skyrim pause, let me eat 500 wheels of cheese. It's like if you eat a burger, you might get a good heal, but it also occupies like 50% of your stomach. And so it's like you have to pick and choose what items you want to kind of heal with to... because maybe you're also like thirsty, or you also need mana or something like that. So it's a really cool balanced game, and it only exists on the DS, and it's kind of hard to find. I feel like it was very overlooked, but I like the art style of it a lot. The pixel art is really good, and it being an Atlas game, you can kind of trust that it's going to be very like at least a 7 out of 10.
I mean, for me, I actually have a few now that I've racked my brain a little bit. DK King of Swing for the Game Boy Advance, I thought was really fun. It was just basically using the shoulder button. Basically, it was like it's hard to describe, but like you use the L and R like shoulder buttons as Donkey Kong's both hands as he like click one, he grabs left and right, and you basically just swing through the entire levels on like these little pegs. Essentially, it was almost like a puzzle game. But I always thought that game was really fun. It was like a weird platformer game, and then I thought honestly, the Age of Empires for Nintendo DS was a pretty fun like portable port of Age of Empires. It plays nothing like original of Age of Empires, like it's its completely own game. But I don't think it was that bad. I thought it kind of plays like Advance Wars, where you like have a bunch of units that have like health bars on like an overmap, and then they fight each other until all the health depletes and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty fun. And then, I mean, people who like Persona know it, but I mean, now that Persona has a much larger fan base, I mean, Persona Q, I think, is a really good fun. It's exclusively a DS game, and if you like Persona, it's a pretty fun little side game to play. So I think anyone who knows Persona knows that, but people who don't know Persona, it's a pretty good JRPG on the portable for that.
Anything from you, Edwin?
I gotta be honest. I don't really have any. I don't think are underrated. I think I had one, but now I don't remember. I don't have one. No, I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm not into the Kirby community, and I don't know where Squeak Squad ranks in that community of games, but Squeak Squad, I think, is one of the best Kirby games for anyone who has... If you want a good Kirby game, Squeak Squad for the DS, best Kirby game.
I don't know if I actually had one. The only one that I was kind of impressed with at the beginning, but it just started giving me fucking problems was the Super Mario 3D for the 3DS. Like, that was cool at first because it was like everything's like coming at you 3D wise, and then after playing it for a little bit of time, you just started getting your eyes started to strain, and then I was like, okay, maybe this is not for me, and I turned my 3DS into a 2DS. I was like, yeah, it was cool at first when I first saw it. I was like, okay, maybe for people that can, I guess, deal with that kind of imagery would probably enjoy it because it looked really cool. It was obviously the time of when 3D was trying to make its way into gaming, so to see that on a gaming console that was portable, I thought that was pretty cool. So how did playing on handhelds impact your overall experience with gaming growing up?
I'm addicted to Pokemon.
I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason.
I will kill for you.
Yes, sure, why not? Fuck it, Pikachu. Who do you want me to kill? But I mean, I think it has influenced my taste in games. I mean, jokes aside, even if it's not Pokemon, I have a very big affinity for creature collectors and RPGs because of both Pokemon and Fire Emblem and Advance Wars have also like influenced like my love for RTSs. At least not really tactical, even though I mean, obviously Fire Emblem especially is a tactical RTS, you could say, but yeah, just strategy games, I guess, in general, those kinds of styles, I very much like them. And of course, like the casual life sim games, because the best Animal Crossings, Wild World, and New Leaf are both on the DS. I think they're both better than New Horizons. New Horizons is great, but New Leaf is the best Animal Crossing, and Wild World is the second. So I think a lot of portable games have influenced the genres I like, probably more or less. And also, it exposed me to Persona. As I said, I played Persona 4 all the way through for the first time, and that was my first Persona game that I beat on the PS Vita. And primarily because it was portable, made it a lot easier, especially because I didn't have a PS2. Yeah, I think that's to keep it short. I think it's primarily influenced my genre tastes, I guess, at least a large portion of my genre tastes. And obviously, I'm just a huge fan of Pokemon in general. Mm-hmm. And it's introduced me to a couple IPs like Fire Emblem. Well, I guess technically Smash Brothers is responsible for that, but yeah, I mean, I'll just keep it short and sweet like that. Mainly my genre taste.
I mean, I can bounce off of that. Very similar, because like a lot of the games that I usually play are very like involved, like longer. I typically stay in the JRPG range, and there are JRPGs on handheld, but because I didn't play handheld too often, because it was only like on road trips or something like that, it kind of got me to branch into genres that were like interactive in a way. So like the first game I had on DS was Trace Memory, and that was a mystery game, and so I started to play a little bit, and I had Trauma Center, and like those were way different than what I typically would play, but it kind of introduced me to like mechanics of things that I would find in bigger like console-based games. So like last night when I was looking through my PS2 games to try to find something to play real quick, like most of the library I have is like JRPGs, which have a very like slow curve for a startup. You can't just pick it up and play. But as you go through my collection to like more modern games, you'll start finding like random like mini games here and stuff like that. So like the handhelds kind of introduced that, and it's nice because they were more innovative with the mechanics they had based on the like scalability of their games, because they were very small like packages of entertainment. So using that as references to probably many indie games out there, like you'll see things that were only introduced on like Game Boy first. Wario Land is a really big game, and that was a Game Boy game. And you can find Pizza Tower, which is directly inspired, if I had to guess, from Wario Land, because it's like the exact same play style. So it's cool to see that, and that's kind of what handheld games have done for me.
So it was like, so for handheld games, it was like what I used to do before. I guess before the Switch, which is like kind of like a hybrid for that factor. Like what I used to do before is like I would have one game for the handheld that I would play outside the house, and then one that I would play on a console inside the house. But I would never like so I can have something on like outside the house to play. I would never play my handheld game in the house. I would just leave that for like outside entertainment if I ever got bored. And I just finish whatever console game I have. So it's like, it just said multitasking. And then just like, I guess a test to my memory, just remember what the hell I was doing in one or the other. But also playing mobily, it kind of got like a few acquaintances and some friends. Because, it's like if people get curious of what you're playing in public. So sometimes you get like a kid run up to you. It's like, hey, what are you playing? And it's like,
shut up, go away.
I mean, it's like you kind of get like a conversation going, because like before Pokemon like skyrocketed and like during like Pokemon Go or something, there's like people was just it was like, what are you playing, Pokemon, nerd? Now for like every person that would call you nerd, you got like 3 other people that would very gladly talk to you about Pokemon or like try and trade you with it. So it's like it's a curvature in like the gaming community where it's just like now Pokemon is like as well, I don't know about as, but like now it's like it's like that meme that you can sometimes see on the internet where it's just like if you like in the past if you don't watch anime, I was like if you do watch anime then you're a weirdo, but now if you don't watch anime you're the weirdo. So I see that meme sometimes, like, yeah, it kind of is true. I was like, people always watching like the more modern stuff that everyone else is watching. I was like, good entertainment. Now Pokemon is fun. It's pretty much for anyone. It's simplistic enough. So I was like, yeah, Pokemon Go, so anyone can actually try it. So it's conversation starter, I guess.
I mean, for me, I don't know if it was much impact, but it was just one of those things that was a filler more than anything. Because again, it would be you're in those times waiting for something, having to just eat time up. Somebody would be like, "Hey, you want to read newspaper?" I'd be pulling out a SP or just doing something else that would basically kill the time. You're on a plane flight somewhere. You have something to play while you're in the plane. You're waiting in horrible DMV waiting to get your license or something like that. You're playing on a console that's like keeping you occupied, so you're not having to deal with any of this craziness out there. Or having to have to deal with somebody trying to start a conversation with you because they're just as bored. So you'd be able to have something to keep yourself occupied. I mean, with today's gaming now, there's just so much options out there. Like I've already spoken about the ROG Ally. Now, playing PC games right in the fingertips is just, it's been an amazing thing for me, because I would just be like, oh, I want to play a PC and I just don't want to have to bring an entire desktop and a monitor with me to play something. I can literally do that now anywhere as I go. So it's been pretty nice, but again, it's been more of a filler than anything, because if I do get home, more than likely I'll play on a console like a PS5 rather than playing at something in the middle of my hands. I would just do that only if I was at someone else's house or doing something that would require me very limited space, and therefore I have to bring out my little portable console, and I could just do that. But yeah, not saying it's a bad thing. It definitely helped me get through a lot of boring parts in life, but nothing too crazy. So I guess my next question is, which handheld console had the best multiplayer or co-op features, in your opinion?
DS.
For me, it's kind of a toss-up. I would say, because Game Boy Advance had the Four Swords, the plug-in to the Crystal Chronicles stuff, and the Pokemon trading and everything, which would be earlier. But the DS had online capabilities, and you could play. I think it was like Mario Kart 7 or something like that, or Mario Kart DS.
Yeah.
You could play that online with people, which was kind of fun. And then they had the Mario 64 DS game that no one else had to have the game. They just had to have a DS, and you can invite them to play mini games with you, which was really fun. And I would do that all the time in high school. I'd just be like, hey, man, I'm going to run a match. The teacher's out, so let's play something or whatever.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, you can't really compete with if one person has, the cartridge, you can just share it with up to, 8 other people, and that's consumer friendly and as fuck,
Yeah.
That's got the best kind of multiplayer. Like, you can't really compete with that, honestly.
It's kind of the only time I've ever seen that too from a company. It's just like, you don't need to buy it. I have it. You can just play with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only other time I've seen that actually possible is the remote play that PlayStation has, whereas you can connect to someone else's console as a second player.
God,
because me and an old friend, we he had Gang Beasts, and then he asked me if I wanted to play. I was like, how the hell am I supposed to play with you? I was like, oh, just go remote play and then just connect to my game. I was like, you can do that? It just reminded me of that DS functionality where you only one person in the game, you just connect with another DS. But it's also for the DS, it had the Street Pass, which is a free functional game that you can have that everyone just got into. It was that's why everyone just brings their DS to conventions and things like that, specifically just for that.
Yeah.
So that was a really interesting thing to play.
What's even funnier is that I brought my DS with me. I said I brought my DS with me when I went up to Massachusetts, and it was in I brought that out after the 2 hours it took for my fucking Switch to die, because I can't run Arceus for long periods of time, and I got street passes by the time I got up to Massachusetts. I'm like, people are still using this thing. It's kind of funny.
I'm surprised it still works considering the DS servers are down.
I'm pretty sure it's just a local wireless thing. I don't think they need the servers to function.
All right, so my final question for everybody, and let's really think about it. If you could revive any handheld console with modern technology, which one would it be, and what changes would you make?
3DS.
Ooh.
I would remake the 3DS, because I can appreciate the Switch being a portable console. It's a neat idea. However, that shit cannot fit in my pocket. My DS, my 3DS XL can still fit in my pocket very easily. And I don't think anything that has to be carried in a carrying case counts as portable, or at least portable to the point that it's convenient to carry around. I get that, like, probably the target audience for the Switch is people, you know, like on commute to on like a plane or the bus or a train, and so most people are going to have like a backpack with them, so carrying it isn't that big of a deal. But like, I think the nice thing about the DS and all Game Boys, even the Vita, all fit directly in my pocket. And so I consider that like a real portable console. I don't really consider bringing I don't consider bringing the Switch with me anywhere unless I'm going on a plane. Because if I'm just going somewhere like around, it's just kind of a redundant part of the console. I would just have liked to see Nintendo continuing to keep their console and their handheld division separately. The Switch is a nice thing. It really is, but I preferred it when they were separate because they had their own separate libraries. There was different reasons to play both of the games, and like I said, the DS itself is like true portability. I don't consider the Switch very handheld portable. It is in asterisks, in quotation marks. Obviously, I still use it, but only in really specific circumstances. Whereas the DS is just like a universal like handheld you can take with you wherever you go. It's really easy to do so. So I would just reintroduce it with functionality, you know, backwards compatibility, and if for whatever reason, if I could trade the 3D portion for like more battery life or something, I would, or like a better display or something. I would like, yeah, there you go. I would take the display from the Vita and put it on the DS to give it a better display. Why not? But yeah, that's probably my answer to that.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way.
I guess a weird answer for this would be I would have really liked to see Nintendo actually move forward with their concept a while back of the Nintendo phone. This was back when smartphones started to like show up, and they were debating on whether or not they wanted to do a smartphone that would have a Nintendo game library. And I think that would have been a really cool thing because, you know, they have all the like. Basically, they could have had the emulator that we already have on smartphones of like Game Boy Color and like SP and stuff like that, but they would have had like official Nintendo like licensed library of these things, so you wouldn't just wake up one morning and have it completely wiped from the internet. But the Nintendo phone seemed like a really cool concept when they were talking about it back in the day, and you know, I thought that, you know, I probably would have gotten one if they actually released it because I like getting like weird tech stuff just because. You know, I had like off-brand MP3 players and things like that, so I think a Nintendo-based phone that was their new handheld would be something that I would love to see just because. And Sony kind of had the Ericsson phones. I don't know if they still do the phones anymore. I think that's discontinued, kind of like they stopped doing the laptops too, the Vio or whatever. But like Sony had an opportunity to take the Vita and just like bring it into like a whole smartphone library, and they could have made a Vita phone, and that would have been like a similar thing where it's like they have their entire library. It's a, you know, 19 or 16 by 9 screen, so you got your ports of whatever console games you want that are like PS3, and they could have just not dominated the mobile market, but they definitely would have had familiar games, so it's not like I'm playing Paper Toss on my iPhone. It's like, oh, I could have had Uncharted on my phone and just played it with like the touch controls that everybody's so used to because people can play Fortnite now and PUBG. So like, why not have like a console-based phone? I guess that would be my answer.
I sense a bit of irony in that statement, considering that Microsoft had their Game Pass streaming on phone, because there's no possible way you can have modern games like fitting on a phone with the little storage data that the phones already have. You're already having like issues like downloading 500 gigs of a game just to play it on the console. So
Microsoft also had their opportunity to have a handheld, and everybody was talking about it being, I think the rumor of it was circulating that it was going to be like the Xbox 180 because it's like a handheld version. But they nixed the mobile market, and then there's the Windows phone, but those all suck. So I don't know if Xbox could have had a good phone, but that's because the Windows phone sucked. Nintendo didn't have a phone prior to be like, wow, that's a terrible idea. So we never even got to see the idea come forward. Sony, I was going to get an Ericsson, but like they also kind of started to bomb their phones into the ground. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know about me to say. I mean, I think the thing I really liked about the DS was just, again, it was protecting itself. You could close it, which is why I like the flip phone feature kind of thing, because it would keep the screen from getting damaged. It'd keep your buttons and your analog stick from getting damaged because it was enclosed. So you could basically put that anywhere you wanted to, take it with you, and everything would be able to last a lot longer. So you wouldn't have to be worrying about replacing a screen, replacing joysticks, or anything like that with today's kind of gaming that you have. I mean, I got little kids, and they do play them, but they obviously will tend to mishandle them a little bit. And I think that if it was like in a flip kind of feature, it would probably have kept those things a lot more protected. Obviously, having with the individual nunchucks and such makes it a little bit more of a problem. But I like the DS just per se of what it was. I really wish it was just more beefier up so it could handle like those type of games that you have for the Switch, because I don't know, I was not much of a Switch guy. I was into the DS, and again, since I got the ROG Ally, now I can play all of the PC games on it, so it's kind of a thing of its own. But being able to have that go back with just more beefier idea to where it can basically still fit in your pocket, take you where you need to go, and it's not so cumbersome where it requires a lot of space, that would just be the only thing for me specifically. I know you guys had ran through with your conversations, and you did happen to have the answers to my trivia. Are we wanting to give those still a shot, or do you guys want to just skip that?
Did we literally answer all of them?
I'd say 2 of them you did.
Go ahead and just
remember.
Well, I mean, you can go ahead and just say the trivia and just fun factoids to reiterate, and then if we didn't answer the third one, we can try and answer it.
All right, so the first one, question 1, which of the following handheld consoles was the first to feature a backlit screen as a standard feature? Was it A, Nintendo Game Boy Advance SP, Game Boy Advance, the DS, or Sega Game Gear?
Actually, yeah, Game Gear.
Was it Game Gear, really?
Yeah, it was Game Gear. That was their whole thing, because it was the Sega can what Nintendo doesn't, or something like that, or Nintendo don't. But it took 8 AA batteries to run the damn thing, and it's like holding a VHS tape with a tiny little Sega screen in the middle for Sonic the Hedgehog.
And it was bigger than the original Game Boy too, because that thing was massive. Yeah. It was a monster. It was cool.
It was literally a VHS tape in your hands.
It was ahead of its time when it came out, just not with battery capacity. It took a lot of juice.
It's expensive.
You had to spend $12 so that you can power it.
Fuck.
Yeah, just you can play some Sega. Question number 2. So that was the answer. Sega Game Gear. Question number 2. The PlayStation Portable PSP used a proprietary disc format for its games. What was this format called? U-Card, MD, GD-ROM, or UMD?
UMD.
What does it stand for?
Ooh, is it?
Fuck you.
Hey, you sons of bitches are going to answer. You might as well figure out what the
I'm not a fucking nerd.
I'm
not a nerd.
It's Universal Media Disc.
Yeah.
Oh, bonus points.
All right, the third and final question. Which handheld console was known for introducing the concept of Street Pass, allowing users to exchange data with others when
Game
passing
Gear.
by the... Yeah, PlayStation...
Terms of service.
PS1.
PlayStation Vita.
Xbox 360.
PlayStation Portable. PlayStation Go or Nintendo DS?
What the fuck is a PlayStation Go?
It's not real.
DS.
PlayStation needs to go.
I said terms of service. It's always taking your information anyway.
Yeah, there's actually PlayStation Portable Go, but anyways, yeah, the answer was Nintendo DS. All right.
Yay.
Yeah. All right. So, well, I guess we'll be wrapping it up. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube channel to be notified of our new episodes. Rate us 5 stars if you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel. And for all of you gamers out there, just remember to keep exploring, keep playing, and keep listening. Until next time, this is Meteor Brothers Podcast signing off. Thanks for listening.
Check the remote for batteries.
Take it from the TV remote.
Gotta catch them all.
Hey, this is Corey, and thanks for checking out Mediocre Rumble Brothers. If you liked the video, please drop a like, and if you didn't, that's fine too. If you'd like us to talk about any specific games, drop a comment below, or feel free to discuss your experience with the games that we've mentioned in the episode. You can also listen to our episodes prior to YouTube on our Spotify. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you again soon.